Okay, let's talk about resin supports. Here is two of the models that I printed together. I probably could have fit more on this, but I didn't. We've got the Enchantress, and this is the top of her staff. And Enchantress, I printed just in the position you see her in. Maybe I could have tilted her, but I found this worked out fine. This was interesting. I looked at this and I was trying to figure out the best way to print this. And there's a lot of flat surfaces, and flat surfaces on the bottom near the bed aren't always your friend. You get what I call pillowing. It looks like those old timey couches with the buttons in them. You know, you get little poofy spots, and most of them you can just file them or sand them down real easy, which is what I ran into with the head of this staff. No matter how I did it, I got a little bit of that pillowing effect, but it's easy to clean up. What I find is best to do is if you have an issue with something that's going to be needs to be cleaned up, I try to make it in a place on the model that's not going to be as obvious. So this one was going to be in the back. So what I wanted to do here, let's see, I moved him over a little bit, and then I tilted him back a little bit. No, I rotated him back a little bit. There we go. And then I gave him another tilt on this angle. No, not that angle. On this angle. Right? So now everything is on a little bit of an angle. And you can preview it, sorta, by just going through the layers. Right? You go down through the layers and look how it's going to build. And you want the least amount of the model facing the bed. Like you want an edge where you can support it. That is what will work out best. I don't know if that makes sense. Okay, so now we got to hollow it out. Now, I learned this from another video. I'm sorry, I don't remember whose video it was, otherwise I would give you credit, where they said that the precision, you want to bump that up above 100. The higher you do it, the more precise it'll be. I believe they went up to 300. I tried that. It didn't really work for me. I got some weird sort of artifacts on the inside and it came out funky. But 175 seems to work fine for me. So let's hit that. Now, let's see how it did. Now, this is kind of a small part, so I never expected it to hollow out completely. But let's take a look. Okay, so it did hollow out in there. That's cool. And it hollowed out that globe, and it gets some of the crescent. So that's cool. Now we want to do the Enchantress. Let's hit her up. Okay, that took so long that I actually had to stop the video, let it go through, and then pick it up later. So we go up at the top here, we go down, you can see it pretty much hollowed out everything. Now the hollow doesn't go all the way down her legs. It gets a little bottleneck there, and it's solid over here. But that's still pretty good. So next we got to put in holes. Okay, so you want to put in holes to let the resin drain out and to avoid suctioning the model to the FEP, right? So it helps the model release from the FEP on each layer. So I try to keep the depth of the hole deeper than the thickness of the walls, right? My walls are 2 millimeters thick, that's 4. It's around 3 millimeters the size of the hole, that's good, so I'm going to click hole. Now I'm going to keep to the same idea as before. I want my holes, well, they'll be less noticeable. So if I fill them, if there's any imperfections, they'll be less noticeable. So I put holes here, inner calf, and I might be putting more holes in than's really necessary, but so far this has worked fine for me. And I put her in her butt because big wide area, easy to fill and clean up. Right now, I believe in the skull she's holding, right? Let's just look at it from above. So that's where I want to put a hole. We'll do it. Yeah, a little bit. I don't know, I find holes in this really weird. There are times that I almost want to do the holes in Blender just because it might be easier. Now, I like to put 2 holes in each thing because I want an in and an out, right? So I want to be able to let the alcohol get in there to clean out the inside as well, and I want it to be able to get out. So without an in and an out, there's going to be air trapped in there and it's not going to go through. So I'm going to put another hole in the skull right back here. Now, when I first did this, I was a little unsure. I was actually going to print all these plugs and then try to put them back in. It doesn't work. It's a waste of time. Don't even bother. I just delete them all. Oops. Okay, so there's that. And that's really all I think I did. I didn't want to put any more because I didn't want her to scrounge up the details in the female figure. This thing is all hollow. So I believe I put, let's make that just a tad smaller. And I don't like making them too small because then it feels like, you know, you're not really doing anything. Even that seems kind of big. There we go. Okay, so we got an in and an out on that. Even though that is so thin, I'm really not sure how much stuff is going to get in through there. Let's get rid of those 2 plugs before we forget about them, because there's just no point in saving them. Now, let's deselect that, and let's click on this. Now, we want to add holes in this. Now, when possible, I like to add holes in areas that won't be seen, so you don't even have to worry about filling them. Right, and we saw this whole thing is hollow here, this is hollow here, so I'd like to get a hole in there, and I did manage to do that on the finished one, but it doesn't always cooperate. Oh, we got it. And I'll do one in each of these if it'll cooperate. And these are actually small parts, so it's not that big a deal. Oops, did I make it? Did we cut a hole in a weird spot we didn't mean to? Sometimes I find if I pull this away too quick, it'll cut a hole where I don't want it to. See, there's always one that gives me an issue, and I never really understand why. There we go. Okay, let's get rid of these plugs. I like to make sure they all say plugs so I don't accidentally delete some of my hard work. Okay. Oh, wait. You know what I want to do? I also want to put a hole in here. Let's make that just a little bit bigger. Let's go for 3 millimeters. And I like to keep it about the center. Okay, double click on the background and then we'll deselect the whole tool. Okay, now let's do the supports. Now she's pretty easy to support. There are some things you have to keep in mind though. I had actual fail the first time because the shoes weren't supported enough. This little peg down here on the bottom did not print at all. I also had a problem here with the loincloth. When you do auto supports, which is how I like to start, it supports here, and that's it, which is technically all you need. However, it doesn't hold. This whole front part of the loincloth is separate from the body until you get up to about up here, right? It doesn't really attach to the body until it gets up here. So what happened was this would print and it would shift, and I'd get like a layer shift just on the loincloth. So what I want to make do is I support the loincloth all along the sides. And for some reason, all of these little symbols came out fine except for this one, right? I lost the bottom point of this star, so I put a little extra support on there. Okay, so let's select her and let's go into supports.